ready to go? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Goshen Town Board meeting, February 9th, 2023. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to open the town board meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first item on the agenda is a public hearing for Broadley and Vivian Lane Solar, 9-1-4 and 6.2, application for site plan and special permit for a solar energy system along 297.2 acres of Broadley Road in the RU zone with AQ-3 scenic road corridor, floodplain and ponding, and stream corridor and water supply watershed overlays. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You know, before they get started, where's the planning board on this one?
Sean?
Be happy to tell you. The planning board, this was last on the planning board's agenda on the meeting of the 19th. It was going to be on the planning, at that time they authorized drafting of a resolution. It is going to be on the planning board's March 2nd agenda for consideration of that resolution.
Okay. Only reason why I asked is because Phil Dropkin was telling me individually that he had some problems with the along the trail relative to the open space part of it, so.
I can give you a little bit of additional information on that.
Well,
That was a large issue. So as you recall, this is two parcels. One's owned by the town of Chester, it abuts the Heritage Trail. The other is owned by the sisters, it also abuts the Heritage Trail. And visual impacts is something the planning board studied at length. They went around with several iterations, which the applicant will go through tonight, about the visual impact. Ultimately, what the planning board did was they had asked the applicant to see if they could install some plantings on the county's right-of-way for the Heritage Trail. The supervisor helped coordinate a meeting. The applicant and town representatives met with representatives from the county planning, legal, DPW, and Parks Department, and the county is inclined to allow a license agreement to the applicant, so the applicant can put plantings on the Heritage Trail.
Okay. I mean, that's fine, they're that far along. This is some time ago when he wrote his recap. Well, okay. Good, thank you.
So we're going to get something from the planning board. We still have to, describing exactly what the final plan would look like, their approval, the resolution.
No, this application needs a special permit from this board. And
Yes.
site plan approval from the planning board. There's no requirement on the applicant to procedurally get one before the other. And frankly, it has counsel, but I don't think that there's any ability for this board to add an additional requirement that they get that approval before this approval. The planning board has authorized drafting of a resolution. It's likely to act on that at their March 2nd meeting. They closed their public hearing and they have to take action before February 21st. One item that's going to occur tonight is I'm going to ask the applicant to give the planning board an extension to March 2nd. But essentially, we're in a kind of a cycle here where somebody has to move first, or, you know.
Well, normally, the way I understand it, and I'll just read this just briefly to you, as far as special use permit, I see us as the last stop to make sure that everything was done, and when everything was done, that we think that it won't be a negative effect on the community or the neighborhood. So at any point, we can stop it, and I'm not saying we will. All I'm saying is you've got to know what's been done, and there were a lot of issues. I don't know if they've been taken care of or not. The only thing I have is the last EIS form from the planning board, December 20th, with a whole list of things that could or could not happen, and that the applicant did an assessment and said this was okay. Well, I need to understand, did the applicant who themselves do the assessment and say, you know, this is fine? Or were there other people brought in? So for our benefit, I'll just read you one short, tiny paragraph as to what our responsibility is and our responsibility. And it's New York State Consolidated Law, the definition of special use permit. as used in this section, the term special use permit shall mean an authorization of a particular land use which is permitted in a zoning ordinance, which this one isn't, or local law, subject to requirements imposed by such zoning ordinance or local law to assure that the purpose used in harmony with such zoning ordinance or local law and will not adversely affect the neighborhood if such requirements are met. So even though they meet requirements, if we feel last stop, you know what, we've looked at this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of variances that they're looking for and a lot of issues that they have to get this done. With me, the first issue was the end run on the town board, because it states this is a 10 megawatt application, and they should be 5 megawatts because that's the most in New York State. But they're doing this just to end run the town board. So I wanted to delve into it the most, and if I'm going to be saddled with something, and I understand it went through the planning process, I want to understand what we're going to do with this, and really Owens Road is the same issue. There are residences, there's site view, there are overlays. This is not zoned for this. So the last stop, and that's all I'm saying to this board, whether we approve it or not, is us. That kept in
That's where we
mind, let's
need
move on, let's just move on with the
Well,
presentation.
yeah, I'd like the zoning board, also the town board attorney to weigh in on where the zoning board is on all their variants.
Right, there we are.
I was just trying to pull up the last notes.
I don't have anything on any of the variances, but I know they need a lot of variances.
Alan, what's that? Where did we just leave off with Vivian on the variances? I'm trying to pull up my notes while I was listening to Phil.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
the zoning board on Tuesday approved the variance application, so,
decision is pre-drafted, is yet to be signed by the chairperson.
yeah.
So you had a public hearing at the ZBA.
That was,
They're-
we had the
Close
public
the
hearing.
public hearing.
And
I'm just trying to go down.
Yes.
right.
Those concerns.
They're done, that went, which we got the FEIS from the planning board, which allowed us to take action as a ZBA.
Right.
They approved the variance request. It's just got to be signed off on by Thomas. the
So for the purposes of the application, they're through the ZBA.
They're through the ZBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where does the planning board stand?
They've completed seeker. It's what they did at their December meeting. I think, Phil, you're talking about a negative declaration that was issued during the
Yes,
December 20th meeting.
yeah, because there are a number of issues, and I don't know who did the assessment or whether, and I don't know what variances were approved, because we may sit back and say, yeah, I mean, they asked for a variance, but this is crazy. It encroaches on everybody else in the community. We can still not issue this special use permit, even though they've met all the
Let
requirements.
me go through some
So-
of your issues kind of in a stepwise fashion. So in terms of
Please.
seeker.
We should have all of this stuff in writing, so we understand and able to read how they fixed each of the situations that we're facing.
In terms of seeker,
Okay.
the planning board was lead agency.
Right.
They circulated a notice of intent to be the lead agency.
Right.
After
Got
not
it.
having any objections, they took on that
No.
role. They
Not a
went
problem.
through seeker. Frankly, it was a long process. It was a long seeker process primarily because of the visual impacts.
Yeah.
The planning board ultimately, at their meeting on the 20th of December, determined that the applicant's plans to date had indicated there'd be no negative environmental impact relative to the items in the negative.
And that's
declaration.
based on them doing all the assessments.
That's based on the
themselves.
planning board assessing the materials submitted by the applicant, which is a typical procedure. as you
Right,
know.
no, I understand that. Go ahead.
Okay, the other item that you had was ZBA's. The planning board can't act before the ZBA. For whatever reason, this matter was initially going to be considered, I believe, at the January ZBA meeting. It was deferred, so the planning board couldn't take action. They've now, that they've gotten the variance, now the planning board can take action. This was going to be on the planning board meeting next week, where the planning board has 3 public hearings, and they asked the applicant to defer out to the
Right.
3rd. So the applicant agreed to that, but I think they probably wouldn't have agreed to that if they knew that it was going to affect this application in front of you, the special permit application.
Can I just jump in also? if
Yeah,
you mind?
sure.
I think some of the reasons for the multiple public hearings is
Yeah.
that you would hear that at the same time, which is why it's been done in the past, which I think leads to some of the reasons the special permit has fallen last in order is the planning board has either acted in that resolution that they're drafting. A lot of the language therein is tracked in the special use permit, similar to what was going on with Owens Road. So I think that, I don't know if the applicant would agree with this, but if it's that, I don't want to say that big a deal, but if it's that big a deal, I don't see why we couldn't, it could go after the planning board takes action, no? I mean, special permit.
When you're gonna open your public hearing this evening,
Yeah,
just by the looks of the audience, you're probably not gonna get a lot of public comment. When you close your public hearing, you're required under your code to take action within 62 days.
right,
Yeah.
The action can
That's
be
right.
an approval, it can be an approval with conditions, and or it can be a denial.
right.
Those 62 days can be extended if the applicant agrees to extend it. That's what they've done with the planning board. Other than that,
Yeah.
that's really the process.
And just the
Right.
last time we
I
did it
understand the
with the
process.
solar project,
Yeah.
with this group was, sorry for that.
No, go ahead.
but
No,
We
it's
had
okay.
the resolution from the planning board, so some of those answers that you're looking for
Right.
were presented. So procedurally, if it falls within that time frame, it doesn't seem like it would.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so
No.
we were kind of assuming, like Owens Road, this would take a similar track, whereas we got the planning board approval, then we came to the town board for the final special permit.
Right,
So that would line up a month from now, potentially March 9th, if we get the approval from the planning board
Right.
on March 2nd.
Right.
And while I have your attention, just to
Yeah.
clarify one thing, we only needed one variance. If I could just show you quick. All right, so there's actually two separate parcels, each have 5 megawatts.
right,
This side is fully zoning compliant, we don't need any variances. The only variance we needed was for the frontage on Ridgefield Drive.
Right.
And this is in the AQ3 aquifer overlay.
Right.
It requires 150 feet of frontage, we only have 50. So that was the
Right.
variance that we saw, and the principal reason for the ZBA granting the variance is that this 20-foot access drive is only gonna be used for emergency access. All construction and regular maintenance is gonna come from Broadway Road.
Right.
So that was the one variance that we
even
needed.
if there weren't any variances, we still have an obligation before we issue that special use permit to look at all the things that they listed, all the things that could be potential problems and impact the community. And then when we look at this, and that's why I say we should be the end, and we say, you know what, everything has been met, but it doesn't make any sense for the community. It doesn't, and it states right in this thing, it says, "The local law will not adversely affect the neighborhood if such requirements are even met." So, and that's, we don't know that unless we're the end, and we are now. I understand that. I'm just bringing
Well,
this
again,
to
that's why
light
the group-
for everybody so we know what we're dealing with here.
You still would be the
Yeah.
end if it was all 3 boards meet together, if there's a variance
We'd be the
request.
last one to
You'd be
vote.
the last one, even if the planning board's sitting at the dais, so. But in this scenario, it doesn't
Well-
matter. I mean, it's a public hearing, if it closes, there's still enough time to operate it the way that.
Right,
that
but
you
if we
would
had
do.
all public hearings together, there would be a lot of issues that would have to be addressed.
Yeah,
And we
that's-
might not have the opportunity to address them or
Yep.
see how it fits in with the community. I'm not saying I'm opposed or not opposed. All I'm saying is, we need to look at this thing. This is huge. And we need to look at the community and see how it's going to affect us. So that's where I'm at, that's
And the
all.
last thing
That's
from
it.
my end is
Yeah.
I'll forward, once the decision is signed from the ZBA end, I'll forward it over to you, so you can see a little more fleshed out reasoning that Alec was talking about.
No,
with
I
the,
understand. Yeah,
so,
okay,
I'm more
thank you.
concerned about the planning board because one of the members on there had some really concerns about the visual impact
Yeah.
against the Heritage Trail.
But I think they've all been satisfied.
No.
I don't know.
I mean,
Right.
that's
I'd
what-
like to see
They're
it in writing
satisfied-
That's been
Yeah.
resolved.
Well, it was satisfied to their level,
Satisfied to their,
That's what-
maybe
that's-
not the town board.
My recollection, and I'd have to look back to confirm it, but I believe both the negative declaration and the authorization for the attorney to prepare a resolution were unanimous votes by the planning board.
by the planning board, that's
Right.
fine, that's what I'm looking for.
That was theirs.
That's what it was. And we could,
Yeah, okay, good. Is it okay, the request would be to Nets to present quickly the project?
Oh, yeah, no, go right ahead.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to.
Yeah, and actually, I was looking back because our first presentation, our introductory presentation of this project to the town board was actually November 8th, 2021. This is our third public hearing on the project. And I think it's been mentioned by the engineer, Mr. Hoffman. This has been a really a good process, a process with the planning board throughout, in feedback, pushback on some of the concerns that were referenced, Mr. Bloomfield, by what you just said, Mr. Grafkin had said, and then a solution to try to address that. So Travis Rosenkrantz will just briefly take you through those steps.
Yeah, again, I'm a project manager with Creighton Manning, working with New Leaf Energy as a consultant. So what I'd like to do is just give you an overview of where we were, where we've come, and then show you the plans and the landscaping of where we were actually today, which addresses the concerns of the planning board and were last discussed at the December 20th meeting. So as Terrence mentioned, yes, it was a lengthy process. What this figure over here is showing kind of where we started as far as the red, and I should ask, is not everybody's going to be able to see it, but are you guys okay? Yep. Okay, so the intent was anything in red was where the initial submission was made, showing the proposed tree line and then the proposed solar array. So really what we had heard is, yeah.
Is that the trail down there that?
Yes.
Okay, that's, okay.
Yes.
I just want to know where I'm looking at, okay.
Yes, and let me step back here just to give you, because it has been a while.
Okay.
This is the overall. So we have Broadley on the western side, Vivian on the right, Ridgefield, Broadley here. This is the trail that loops along this way. And then Ridgefield and another connection this way off of Ridgefield. That was the emergency use only. So this is the intent of this is just to show you the bird's eye view of where everything rests and connects together and kind of works as one. So moving our attention over to this one, hearing the concerns and working with the planning board and the county, really where we stand today. I'm trying to get out of the way so
No,
you
you're
can
good.
see.
It's okay.
Where we stand today is this green. So what you see is everything has been pushed back from the Orange County or from the Orange Heritage Trail, both the tree line and then also the array. That includes a substantial increase in evergreen planting for visual screening. To supplement that, there was an updated visual assessment completed to show that different screening that provided not just one single species as a wall, but various species offset, some supplemental plantings that will be also put into some key locations along the right-of-way. In addition to that, Sean had mentioned briefly that we did meet with the county and did reach an agreement that during construction, the project can install supplemental plantings and screenings along the trail, and that would be analyzed at the time of construction, because right now we're really not permitted to do that, but that would be selected based upon a site visit with Orange County representatives. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, I think that was going to be a joint meeting with the town representative, county, and then also the applicant. So there's additional screening that is being provided to address those concerns that are not shown on these plans. So that's one point I wanted to make out. So I'll open it up for questions. If there aren't any questions on this, then I'm going to flip it to where we are today. Kind of keep it quick and simple. All right, so we'll do a quick transition. I'm going to show you.
So while you're transitioning, I'll just ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
The assessments that were done on the wildlife and the visuals and so on and so forth, who did the assessment?
There was a visual assessment completed by, it would be Saratoga Associates, who is a consultant retained by the applicant. There were, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 iterations of those?
There was, and we also flagged the trees, the limits of the tree clearing out on site, and invited members of the planning board to take their own site visits in connection with that. And it was actually after the first round, or maybe even the second round of visual assessments that, at least an earlier round, that the planning board really did push back on some of the visual concerns.
Right.
So then there was some mitigation measures that were put in place that included bringing in some topography and earthworks to try to raise the level so that would obscure the view, and then add a battery of additional trees. And then there was a third iteration where those trees were going to be staggered, different species, and then this kind of look-back period, or actually real-time look when the project is under construction to demonstrate that, oh, well, we need to actually do additional planting on the county property to mitigate what actually occurs. So it's multiple levels of addressing that. I'll just point out, there's another aspect to this. There's two other aspects to this in terms of the character of the neighborhood. Kyle Sandusky from the Orange County Land Trust is here. Sister Ellen Rita is here from the Sisters of St. Dominic. Sisters are going to convey a conservation easement on approximately 180 acres of their property. We also are working with the Orange County Land Trust on signage on the Heritage Trail to let the public understand and educate them of what's coming, and then to do, basically, here's what's coming so that people are not caught off guard. Sample signage could then ultimately have some educational aspects of what would be like an energy conservation corridor, starting at Chester Academy and then potentially at the parking lot where the driving range is, as a way of just educating the public. And that was something that the planning board appreciated, because obviously the concern being when the actual construction takes place, the public that uses that trail, the stakeholders, what will they need to really understand what's happening, right? Again, this is our third public hearing. The county really appreciated that idea. They appreciated the planting idea. And there's a conservation component to all this that builds into the plan that exists today. So I didn't want to cut you off, but that adds to what you were saying.
Good. And then just one other thing, the wildlife assessment, where their habitat, who did that assessment and how in-depth was it? Because there were a lot of issues with wildlife.
We certainly did quite a bit of review of that issue. We followed the town's, there was a small world begonia potential identification that was, a site study was done by Labella and Associates confirming that it did not exist on site.
Right.
So we did, we had to do investigations with Natural Heritage, DEC, and then U.S. Fish and Wildlife,
Right.
which then flags species of concern, and then we have to do the, if necessary, site studies. And we actually had to wait until the small world begonia season came and ended before we could complete that.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. Okay. Your transition?
That was good. Well, my job's done.
I give you enough time.
My job's done, that's enough.
Okay.
So really what I'm showing here is the landscaping plan and the overall layout plan for Broadlea alone. So really what you're seeing is a more robust landscaping plan with some variety of the evergreens for screening, balsam fir, Norway spruce. I forgot the third one. Eastern red cedar. So in addition to that, we heard the concerns of the board, and kind of the third iteration is you see a lot more of these scattered trees along the way, selectively placed in areas along the trail where there was some reduced existing vegetation to kind of supplement what's there, and not cut trees. That is an important aspect of that addition, is we're not removing the trees here. That was what was shown on the other figure. Our proposed tree line is actually moved northward to retain the existing vegetation. So really, from where we were, we cut less trees, we're adding more trees, and address some of the visual impacts. As far as the layout, I'll keep it simple. We have our gravel access roads going to our equipment pads with turnarounds, some stormwater management areas. They're just small basins to provide attenuation of any stormwater event while retaining the existing drainage patterns of the overall site. So as you migrate from west to east, this is the connection that then moves over to the Vivian site, which is over on this side. And if we're good with this, then I can flip around and show you Vivian.
Okay.
So Vivian, similar to Vivian, we did have some revisions made to to beef up the landscaping as well. There's a common theme here. I'm talking about landscaping. This entire corridor is now a little more robust with a reduced tree clearing here off of Ridgefield Drive to mitigate that view that was represented in our visual sims. So as I noted, we came off of the Broadleaf project. This now wraps around, connects to the Ridgefield Drive as an emergency access use only. So I think we'll keep it short on that. And as far as the layout, very similar to the components that are contained on the Broadleaf Drive. We have equipment pads, a couple stormwater management areas. The gravel access road will continue up this way. One thing to note is a major change from the last time that a full set of plans were provided is the point of interconnection has actually been reduced use of the gravel access road in the town of Chester. I know that doesn't have anything to do here, but we've really mitigated the use of this and reduced what is needed there based upon the point of interconnection and the analysis that's needed with National Grid. So really, it's just a minor expansion of the gravel road that's there within 50 feet of the right-of-way, and some additional landscaping is added. But that originally there was going to be tree cutting and clearing that moved up all the way almost to this corner of the property line. But that's an improvement. So let's keep it simple like that. Are there any questions? Do you have anything you want to add before that I missed?
So all the stormwater, as far as the applicant was supposed to prepare a stormwater pollution preventative, was that done?
Yes,
Is
a
that
SWIP.
completely done, SWIP?
A SWIP for
Yeah.
both projects, Broadleaf and Vivian, separate.
They
We're
were submitted and
prepared.
approved?
I will say they're submitted, they've been reviewed, and they're in the process of the final.
So we
Final-
don't know if they're approved or not?
They
or
wouldn't be
what?
approved, and they actually do not get approved. Okay, so as part of your code, in order for a complete application, the applicant has to submit a SWIP.
Right,
The applicant submits a SWIP, we do an initial review.
okay.
As there's design iterations changing, it doesn't make sense to continually change the stormwater and generate calculations and things like that. There is a requirement, as you know, from the state to get coverage under the permit.
Right.
This will not go
That's
forward,
right.
and one of the planning board conditions is that they do that.
Right.
They come back to you for the bonds, the stormwater bonds that you
Right.
usually do. And then when all that's done, then I do the final review. I correspond with Frank, because he's your stormwater management officer. Then he and I go to the supervisor, who signs off ultimately on the paperwork that goes to the DEC.
Right,
So that isn't complete yet, because this isn't complete yet.
okay, so, okay.
But
That's
it's
the
not a
MS4.
requirement for the special use permit.
Oh,
It's
it's,
not a requirement that it be completed, no.
no, everything is a requirement for the special use permit. Because if that's not completed or there's a problem with that, we don't have to issue the special use permit.
I'll let the applicant's attorney talk about the process, but
Yeah, what I'm saying, we just want to make sure it's done, that's all. I don't want to belabor this. We're okay, we're okay.
Yes.
As long as they're done, they're doing it.
If you want to talk about what the standards are for issuing a special permit a little bit, your code, no?
We're good.
We're good, we're good,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
I got a question.
Yes,
Are there any battery storage units on this?
No.
No.
Great.
no. This is strictly production and transmission.
Good.
Okay,
That was an easy one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we knew the answer to that.
Oh,
Anything else?
you set me up.
That's right.
You set me up.
Yeah, what is the status of the pilot?
For this, we haven't started yet because we haven't gotten any of the approvals, but because we have these two sites, we have the two in Owens, and then we have the existing approved Pulaski site, which is in process for the pilot. I'm trying to do all of them at once on, kind of on a batch basis. So I've already reached out to the Orange County Tax Assessor, the IDA, Roy's aware of that. We're working on it. I've been copying him on correspondence, just trying to get the ball rolling on all three.
If I can say, when we've done them in the past, we've had the school represented from the school,
Yep.
Yep.
the town, and the county. Because we all are going to participate in this tax
Yep.
decision. Okay.
Rick, anything?
Yeah, when are you guys looking to like break ground? Any idea on that, or, I mean, I know.
I know Sister's
August?
interested in that.
Okay.
We would love to break ground over the course of the late summer.
And time to complete?
It's usually about 4 to 6 months, depending on weather. It could be a little bit longer.
All of the project is in the town of Goshen, but it borders on the town of Chester, if I'm seeing that correctly, right?
Right.
So did the people that are in that subdivision, was it called Ridge?
Ridgefield.
Ridgefield, did they weigh in at all?
Well, they've been noticed by certified mail 3 separate times. I have met with one of the neighbors, and I actually emailed them again leading up to this. And so I explained the situation to them. So we haven't had a lot of feedback from that community yet, but they've been noticed, and I've had at least some communication with them.
I see. What is the, like you mentioned the Orange County Trust?
Yes.
Land Trust.
Orange County Land Trust.
Is going to be involved. What's their role? What are they going to be doing?
Well, maybe I'll ask Kyle to. Kyle's the Director of Conservation for the Orange County Land Trust.
George, or Mr. Gross, before Orange County Land Trust speaks, I just mentioned one item that I think is pertinent to what you had brought up. There's 2 arrays, there's 2 parcels on this. The sisters
Right.
own the one parcel. The town of Chester actually owns the other parcel. Even though the land's in the town of Goshen, it is owned by the town of Chester.
That's the one closest to Chester.
So, yes, that's the one closest to
Right.
Chester, and they
Yeah,
may
yeah.
have received comments from their residents when they started this process.
I see, okay.
They don't just own the roads, they own the actual property?
They own property within the town of Goshen,
So now,
just like you have property in the village of Goshen.
so are they the ones that are doing the application for this
Yes,
particular?
they're the applicant.
They're the applicant.
And where would the funds go for that they receive? Into the,
I think the general fund.
Well, there'll be a rental, this will be a lease between us and them. And of course, we talked about entering into a pilot agreement with the town, the county, and the school district as to all
Would you
4
have to do
sites.
the same thing for the school district, for example, in the town of Chester?
We do not, but I just, from a revenue point of perspective, there will be a rental payment to the town of Chester.
Okay.
And there'll be a revenue payment to the sisters,
There'll be a revenue payment to the sisters. Yep.
which I guess brings me to, I don't know exactly the lay of the land, but, and maybe Sister can actually answer this. I'm quite familiar with Broadway, so where is like, to this project, where is the disability center that you have that's operating now? Where is that in relation to this project?
Yeah, sure. No, the.
And House on the Hill and.
Right, we
like-
have 4 buildings on the property. House
Right.
on the Hill, Dominic's, which is the developmentally disabled, and the day program by the state, and the Impoundment Center Retreat House. They're all, I guess, north of this.
Is that what I see up on the top there, those
Is that it?
types of things? Yeah, that probably looks like the disability center from
Yes,
right over
up
there.
here,
yes.
these buildings to the top, yep.
Right, and then the gym, I don't know if they still use it
Right,
as a
they
gym.
do that for day program, the state.
I see, I
They
see.
still rent that,
Right,
right.
and then I guess the thing closest to that is that, the stone building.
That's the
right?
impoundment center, that's the
That's-
retreat house right near the farm.
I see.
So that piece of the property will not be included in the land trust, and it is not included in the solar.
Right, I
Where
see.
those 4 buildings are will continue to operate,
I see, right.
okay?
Okay. Let's see. Chester Academy was mentioned, but that's not anywhere near this, is it?
It's near it from the Chester Academy. If you look at the location of the Orange Heritage Trail, it's located sort of right in this direction here.
I see, okay.
It's right here. So, I mean, the idea being that we would have signage there saying this is what's happening.
Right, right, okay. So I guess we're to the land trust?
Kyle Sandusky is the Director of Conservation, Land Conservation for the Orange County Land Trust.
Right.
So he is here, is that what
So
you're?
what I'm saying, what's the role? What
Yeah.
part of this
Yeah.
project are you gonna manage?
Of course. So ultimately, in the end, the Orange County Land Trust is going to take an interest in the property through the development rights. First through a conservation easement, as well as through a public access easement. So ultimately, we're going to play a more active role in terms of the stewardship of the natural resources on the property. And again, to clarify, about 180 acres on the property will be protected by that conservation easement, and so therefore going to restrict how the land can be used. So the way that we're going to be structuring it is the property is going to be laid out into a couple of different internal use areas, and that's going to have varying levels of restrictions. I mean, first off, to start off with, the entirety of the property is going to have some base level restrictions, talking about subdivisions and minor things related to dumping, chemicals, mining, that kind of stuff. You know, we play a more active role in making sure those things don't happen. But the other thing, you know, we will have, excuse me, you know, we'll be separating the property into a stream area, a forest area, and a farm area. The stream area is going to be that 100-foot buffer right along Black Meadow Creek, as well as some additional section on the southwestern portion. The forested area is going to be, you know, 110 acres over just to the north of, you know, the town of Chester. Sorry, this part, as well as where the solar development is happening here.
Could I just back up for a second just to clarify something that which is the two solar arrays, of course, are located, you know, in this case on the Chester property and then on the sister's property. And so really this is something that is happening which is outside of the solar arrays where they're located. It's outside the physical location of where the solar arrays are. There's going to be a permanent conservation, essentially easement recorded against these areas of the sister's property against future and further development. And it happens to be part of our overall plan for the project, which is why we thought it would be relevant to you to bring it up. It's not something that has anything to do with the actual solar arrays.
Right, so the trust will not be involved with the solar arrays at all.
Correct.
right? But now, as I look at that map there, the red, the green actually, stuff like that, above that, to the left of that, right?
Yes. So basically,
What land is that? Is that all the land that the sisters are gonna maintain, or still have?
Yes.
With,
Correct.
Yes.
Trust.
the stone building and all that stuff?
Yep.
Behind the house on the hill is included in the trust.
I see.
Yes.
But the property that has the buildings on it now is
Will
gonna
not be.
remain the same?
Exactly.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Exactly.
Are you gonna own the property, or are you leasing it?
So we just take an interest through the development rights. We restrict how the property can be used and take an active role in the management. We have an internal governance process, you know, whereby any kind of things that might need additional approval as laid out in the conservation easement, you know, if they wanted to, for example, build, you know, farm labor housing or any kind of minor things related to agriculture in the farm area. You know, we would have that go through our internal process and of course, as well as through the standard permitting process with the local government. So we just take a more active interest. And we also monitor and steward the land once a year, where we, you know, interact with the landowner and just make sure that everything is in line with the conservation easement. And of course, as was mentioned already, this is restriction of development rights that continue from landowner to landowner. This is in perpetuity. So, yeah.
Now, above that, the long line there, the green and then the brown area.
Uh-huh.
Okay. On the, is that where Albert Feeney has his subdivision being built?
He's on the left side of Corley Road.
Yeah.
That is this area that you're referring
Okay,
to.
yeah, okay.
Right.
How will they be impacted by this?
So at the current moment, I mean, we're holding off on the ultimate decision by the sisters. We are not intending to encumber that by the conservation easement,
No,
but
I'm talking about in terms of this work,
That has nothing to do with our project.
Right.
because he's bought and started building, and I just didn't want, I don't see anybody from his organization here.
Yeah, that's a completely separate process, a separate matter.
Just having the visual impact on those people where he's building his houses, what are they gonna see?
Well, that's a separate matter that's, yes, go
If I
ahead.
could, Sister, I'm going to ask you, has Mr. Feeney closed with the sisters on that property?
Not yet,
But-
because he needs to do a survey that hasn't happened yet, so until that's concluded, he can't close.
Okay. The reason I asked that was because if he had, he would have received notice of the public hearing.
Right.
But
Has not closed.
is he aware of the project?
Projected that he's to.
Is he aware of the solar
Oh,
project?
absolutely, yeah. He
Okay.
was part of the original plan.
And we are within the scenic overlay, outside the scenic overlay, which is 500 feet.
500.
So we are fairly far east of that project. But the point of bringing the conservation easement up in the context
Right.
of this presentation is just to let you know that that is something that is happening as a result of this project, because the sisters want it to happen, and because the solar array provides revenue to the sisters, the lease revenue allows them to donate this conservation easement to the Orange County Land Trust. We paid for the survey that the Land Trust will use for the conservation easement, and it's sort of an addition, it's a conservation outcome for the project.
So what happens to the taxes that are gonna be paid on this property?
Well, as I understand now, their property is exempt from local
It
property
is
taxes.
now, but
Right.
you will maintain ownership of the property and just lease it to these people? They're taking
We will.
It's
that's,
actually
they're taking
it's a
a
conservation
conservation easement
easement.
that runs with the property, that's, you're gonna, so do you lose that religious exemption? Because now you're altering the use of the property.
Well, it's a
What
good
can be done?
question. If
No.
we lose it because of conservation easement, we'd
Right.
have to reconsider,
Well,
right?
I don't know, I mean, I
Don't know.
No,
Now
I mean,
they're-
my background, I have 20 years in land conservation, I worked for the Open Space Institute.
Right.
You know, the fundamental use is, ownership remains in the Sisters of St. Dominic as a religious, and this conservation easement is consistent with the religious mission of the sisters.
Well,
That's a
well-
discussion that can be had
Well, yeah,
separately.
but if they want to use the property for recreation and stuff, there are going to be insurance issues. They're in the town of Goshen, so, I mean, there are a number of issues that I just don't know, I'm just asking, how they view all of these issues.
Yep.
We're familiar with conservation easements, we go through them all the time.
Right.
And there are liabilities attached to them, so I just didn't know, maybe if it was a religious exemption, those liabilities might not go on the property, but if you're going to lease it to a land trust and they're talking about no development, none of this, they can do this, they can do that, then maybe it changes, but I don't know that. I'm just asking.
Right, our plan was that it not be changed, that we have that land set aside.
You might want to check with Orange County Real Property Tax Office just to protect yourself.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's something
yeah,
we can
I
discuss,
understand,
yeah.
it's separate, but it's all one part, it's all Goshen.
It's
So
part
we
of
have
the
to be
consideration.
concerned with everything.
Understand.
Okay,
Back to the pilot, does the pilot come
All right.
back to us for approval?
My understanding, Alec, is that the pilot comes back, the question is, does the pilot come back to them for approval, the town board? Ultimately,
Yes, I'm not sure how your town attorney will want to handle it, but I'll be working through him on it.
Will-
It comes back here.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
it should.
yeah.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
And through the
Okay.
pilot, we're actually adding some money back to the tax rolls that was previously exempt.
Right.
Anything
Good.
else?
That was easy.
that concludes our presentation.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
consideration.
Any comments from the public?
The public, yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, just, you probably should open the public hearing, and then if you have no comments.
Oh.
That's right.
We did
No, we-
open it.
I did, I thought we opened it already,
I
yeah.
apologize.
We did open it, I guess we just
Yeah.
around everything, there's nobody to speak to. So
All right, with that being said, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for Broadley Road and Vivian Lane Solar?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so how are we handling the motion to prepare?
And do a
To
motion to
authorize-
authorize the drafting of a resolution.
Yeah, I got that.
But following the planning board's
Board,
action.
right,
Yeah.
So
okay.
just get calendar for 2 meetings out, or target 2 meetings out, assuming the planning board stays.
So we're not
on
gonna
track.
draft it, we're gonna wait until the public hearing is.
Because most
Till
of
we
the
close the
language
public hearing.
within the special permit is gonna track the language and reasoning that is contained in the planning board's resolution, so it
Right,
makes
so,
sense.
so I'm not gonna request that motion to authorize the drafting
I
of
mean,
the
you can
resolution.
condition it upon,
You're still gonna have to draft. You're still
yeah, I
gonna
mean, you
draft
could do it the next meeting, and you could do it now. If you do it now, it's conditioned on the planning board's completion of their
So,
process.
okay, so we're doing
It just
that-
wants to be last, right? I mean, that's ultimately.
And then this way, at the next meeting, the resolution is drafted.
Yeah, presumably, yes.
All right, can I have a motion to authorize the drafting of a resolution for Broadley Road and Vivian Lane Solar? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
I'll talk to you, Alan.
Need a
Thank you.
motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion to close the meeting.
I did.
No, it's closed. You guys closed it already.
closed
Yeah. And then you did the resolution after.
Sorry.
Too many cooks spoiled the soup. All right, moving on. Items for discussion and action. Discuss and review a request made by Heritage Estates to lower the speed limit to 25 miles per hour. Okay, so I have a letter from the Heritage Board. The HOA of the Board of Directors of Heritage at Goshen would like the council to lower the speed limit in our development to 25 miles per hour. We have a large amount of children that live and play in the community. We have witnessed many cars that are speeding through the community. Our development has narrow streets and is densely developed as Hamiltonian Park and Arcadia Hills. Both Arcadia Hills and Hamiltonian Park both have 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. We ask for your consideration. Thank you for it. Any questions on it? I did discuss it with the town attorney. We have the ability to supersede New York State.
Well,
we do.
I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
There's actually an article that toward the end of last year regarding when Governor Hochul was discussing mandatory maximums of 30 miles an hour that towns have the purview to go to 25 miles an hour. However, I would like to just clarify with the DOT that they don't have to have, that it is fully in our purview, and that they don't have to have some study or, so what I told you beforehand still rings true as far as I know, but
Right.
it wouldn't hurt to have an extra opportunity.
Okay, so we'll table it to the next meeting, and you're gonna, ask
Yeah,
the DOT.
but in general, everybody's good with it. It's just a matter of the,
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
all right,
Right.
Okay.
thanks.
Very good.
I think everything in that letter explained it just the way it is.
Yeah.
I wrote it.
All right, review and accept the attachment indemnification and hold harmless in connection with RDM warehouse request for a clearing permit from the planning board.
I reviewed it. I have no
objection?
issues. It's pretty standard. So unless someone else saw something, but I have no
Any
issues.
questions or objections from the board?
Nope.
All right, so I have a motion to accept the indemnification and hold harmless in connection with RDM's warehouse request for a clearing permit from the planning board.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, Sean?
That concludes my.
Thank you, Sean.
That was it?
That's
Thank
all,
you,
unless you
Sean.
want anything else. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
See you, Sean.
You don't want to stay around and get sandpaper. Okay.
Review and discuss a professional agreement for legal services to pursue the consolidation of the water districts.
I reviewed it for what it's worth. It's pretty standard, although I will note that it's getting paid more money than the town attorney, so I don't know what the,
2X.
I didn't write that contract, so. No, but it's straightforward, and my 2 cents on it, I was joking about the money, but for me to dive into something that niche and do it would cost the town more on my billable hour, and this is something this person does. Oh, not primarily, but they're the go-to person on it, so.
Plus it's capped.
It's capped.
It is
There-
capped.
that was
And I would probably, I mean, if I was doing the math backwards on it, I would be certainly approaching that, if not blowing through it, so. It
You
seems,
did a great job in capping it.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do it this way. I'm not trying to outsource, certainly.
Any questions from the board?
No?
Yeah, I've got a concern that we haven't reviewed any of
Yeah.
this consolidation with people in the water districts. And I think we need to do that so they understand, not the plan, but the concept. So, because this is gonna be their money, that $12,500 is their money, not the general taxpayer money. And I think they,
I'm sorry. The lawyer, this guy does it, and he'll explain it to the public, because it's not something, we have to advertise it, it's gonna take 6 months to go through the total process.
Doug is concerned
I'm
about
concerned
spending
that we're gonna
$12,000
spend the money without them knowing about it.
That's true.
So normally I shouldn't say normally, what we've done in the past is we have a water sewer meeting every year.
Every year.
Go over what the rates are gonna be and any
Right.
questions, people, can say whatever their particular problems are and so on and so forth. So when I was reading this thing over, I thought that type of meeting should take place. And we did have people, I believe it was 2 people from Hamiltonian Park that said they're 100% behind this consolidation. So the only feedback that we got so far was very, very positive. So I don't think that this is going to be a problem. But after that type of meeting, whatever that is, inviting the people in there, then I think it's appropriate to move forward with this legal process.
So you,
But that's my 2 cents.
no, so you want to have a public hearing just to discuss the professional service agreement?
No, the consolidation.
The overall consolidation.
Consolidation, plus talk to them about what their rates are gonna be, like we've done in the past.
What we've done.
That's what the last public hearing was, wasn't it? We had in here, we had a
Guys,
public hearing.
Can I just
We
make a
invited
suggestion?
everybody. Go ahead.
In that meeting, have this guy here, so
Yes.
that he can roll out how the whole process will work to those residents and the board.
No, but I was just clarifying that I could be wrong. I thought we had a public hearing, we invited the public in. For the
Delaware.
Review.
But what we don't have is every April,
Understand that, Doug.
So we
held off on that.
we can bring the rates up to pay for what we're going to do for the next 12 months. And that's been going on since the beginning of water and sewer districts, I guess. So this $12,500 is going to be spent by, if it's approved and all what. And so this place is just packed.
Oh, and it might
with
be,
those people.
I'm sorry too, just so you guys know, it might be a lot less than the 12.5. I just wanted him to tell me
Yeah, that-
what the highest, what it
So-
could possibly cost us going through the whole procedure.
So I don't want to wait until April's meeting, so what did we suggest that we do in order to get this process moving?
I mean, it doesn't even have to be they could put it on the next agenda, have this guy appear person or in Zoom, not sell himself, but explain the process.
But Doug, I believe, is more concerned of the general public. He wants the public to weigh in on spending $12,000.
Well, he wants the water districts that are gonna be, those people that are gonna spend it. So, I mean, you're not gonna notice every one of them. It goes on the agenda. That, I mean, it satisfies certainly.
Again, I'm not saying notify them all, but my question is procedurally, do we have to have a public hearing in order to talk about the overall consolidation, and that this is the first step in that consolidation, and that there's going to be a cost associated with this?
Well, I would say ask the consolidation attorney, but we haven't hired him yet. So I personally don't know the answer because I kind of backed off of this.
The thing is, yeah, I believe though, the consolidation attorney would walk us through the process. We don't have to go through the process. At any time, we can say, and there is going to be a public hearing at the beginning of this process. And at any time, we can say, no, we're not pursuing it. But he's the man with the answers. He can tell us
So
what
what we're
it's all
taking,
about.
our chances that we're taking are a couple of hours of his time to come down here that we would be
Right.
responsible to pay for. Okay?
At
And
whatever his rate is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that seems, and that would be spread amongst the town, that particular bill.
Mhm.
So you guys could,
He's going to put this plan together, or they are, for $12,500 or whatever we're going to spend. All I'm saying is the history of water and sewer districts within our community, right, wrong, or otherwise, is once a year we tell those people, okay, we're going to put a new water storage tank in Arcadia Hills. It's going to be so much money. Your rates are going to go up this much. People in, we're going to line the sewer lines in Hamiltonian Park so many linear feet. It's going to do this. And then we look at the fund balances up to that point and say, okay, so here's what your rates are going to be next year. That's what the meeting is about.
Right.
And this place is packed with people who are going to pay those bills.
sure.
So
I think it's just an informational meeting that we had. It used to go out with the sewer bills and.
Yeah,
It's in April, though. I don't think we want to wait until April to try to
No,
get
and-
it started.
And you're also dealing with a targeted.
So I'm trying to satisfy Doug, what's?
no, I'm just
Well-
saying, look, I'm just saying so that I'm just trying to.
You satisfy it by having him down here before he's retained for that specific thing, and then it's spread among the
That
general.
doesn't satisfy.
No,
me.
it does because, well, at least one portion, because that money's not coming out of specific, it's coming across the whole town.
No, it's not.
No, because I'm saying, well, hang on, I'm saying, the reason I'm saying it is, before you do hire him for the comprehensive plan, this contract that's in front of you, yeah, this guy come down, you want a $12,000 contract, sell yourself to the group here why we're doing it, explain the process. That's what I'm saying to you. And that, if there's, you don't have to pay the guy. He wants the contract,
Rory,
sell him.
you cannot use general taxpayer money for anything to do with water and sewer.
I'm not suggesting you need to pay the guy. He wants to get the contract. He can zoom in and explain the process like anybody else that's pitching to the town board.
But that doesn't solve Doug's problem. Doug's problem,
He
he
wants
wants
the
the
people.
town residents to approve this.
Or agree with it anyway.
Well, you want them to have the information.
No, he wants them
No,
to agree.
they
Well,
come
then,
here.
I mean, procedurally, I don't know if that's required. You may want it to be. I understand that, but I'm saying procedurally, whether it's required or not, would be answered by the guy that we're debating. That's what I'm saying. Get him
I
on
guess
the.
The question I have in my mind is, we had a public hearing, we invited the public. Some of them came, a dozen or so people showed up.
Yeah.
2 or 3 people spoke. Delaware did a job, Delaware did their overview of what they felt we needed to do. We gave them a cost analysis
Yep.
of where the cost would be.
Yep.
And they said in that meeting, the first step would be a consolidation of the districts.
Right.
They
So
spoke.
it's the
We
simplest way to
listened.
do it is get the guy here at the next meeting. And then if he explains the process and you're asking questions, then it would satisfy how the next steps go. Whether you,
But I want, in my mind, if I'm clear about this, because I understand the question
Yeah,
he
I agree.
poses. Now I'm concerned that I don't understand what happened here. I thought we had a public hearing, I thought we addressed this with the public, we invited them in, we went over the plan. Delaware
Right.
did a great job in laying it all out for the people that were here. And
Well,
my
I-
understanding, as yours is, George, most of those people, if not all of them, were in favor of getting anything done in order to.
I don't
clean up
disagree with that.
property.
I thought we were just talking a niche thing about paying this attorney and that coming out of the water districts that are being consolidated, right? That's literally if you narrow down the question, that's really what Doug is saying, or asking, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I
No,
just,
I'm saying that we might have had a dozen people here, but we put a note out with their bills and say, on this date, we're gonna talk about things, rates, work to be done, so forth and so on. So be here.
Did the bills
because-
go out yet?
Yeah, but we can send a notice out at any time, I've done that before.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's my only concern, because money speaks, and some of those people are,
Well, I don't think this,
But
I don't think
what's
that
the
there's a
difference?
necessity to sign this tonight.
what is the notice going to be different than the last notice? That's what I'm
The
confused.
notice in my mind would be something along the lines of, we had the meeting, as
Yeah.
Joe was saying, now we are proceeding
Yeah.
with the consolidation measures, and we're hiring an attorney to do the legal
Right.
work for this
At
first
a cost
step.
of X.
Right.
First step of this consolidation, and we're looking for your input.
Okay, I mean, it's an extra layer. I'm never going to stay, that's not my job to make that determination, but
I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference.
No, no, no.
A couple of, the water's been like this for a very long time, we wanna fix it, so we wanna get it done right. properly.
Okay. Good, then. So,
So do you want me to set up a public meeting?
Public hearing next meeting and invite Ryan down.
Put notices out to the
It's
water
an
district?
official public
I don't think it is, it's
hearing.
an informational, you can just put it on the agenda.
Informational meeting,
Yeah.
just, yeah, this is not gonna be a public hearing, this is informational meeting.
On consolidation
As
of the
long
water and
as,
sewer.
he's the one that's bringing it up, so I just wanna make clear it satisfies him. Does it satisfy you?
It's a matter of transparency.
not really, because, again, for 9 years, I had that meeting, and we got discussion in here, particularly, not about consolidate, but just their individual costs going up and down. Like with a tank, Arcadia
Gotcha.
Hills, that was a big damn deal. That was a lot of money, and we jacked their rate. And then we were doing things on lining the sewer lines, and we got new pumps and new backup generators that are natural gas versus, all these things, and you start adding all those up, it makes a difference on the rates that they pay. And so I don't know what impact this is gonna have on their rates, I really don't. That they don't understand it today, for sure. They do not understand that today, the 12 over here. So,
No, what they understand, I believe, what I got out of that meeting is they just want clean drinking water like we have.
I heard those people say that's priority versus sewage, okay? I heard that, but that's not
I did talk to Delaware. Delaware recommended this attorney because he specializes in this, and they've spoken to each other because I wanted Delaware also to look over that plan and make sure, because they didn't give me a cost at the beginning. And Bill Ryan said to me on the phone, 3 of the water districts, their rates will be reduced with the plan that's in place by him and Delaware.
Okay, I'm just,
3 of the 4.
Then I guess he should be at the meeting.
You know what?
Right, I thought that's what the attorney was talking about, Bill Ryan or Delaware? Yeah,
Ryan.
just have everybody at the next meeting. And, I mean, it doesn't need to be a public thing, it's on the agenda.
What I want to avoid is bringing them all in here, going through the whole process again, and not satisfying what Doug's request is. And that is general information to the public that they approve this. I mean, I don't know whether they have to or they don't. I think we as a board and administrator of the water and sewer district, there are going to be expenses associated
Sure.
with maintaining any water and sewer district.
So just have the guy appear next time.
$12,000 expense is nominal when you lay it out over all the people.
If the guy appears next time, maybe what he says and explaining the process would satisfy Doug, and maybe it wouldn't, and then you,
Phil?
sorry, Phil, I didn't see
No,
you.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, no,
I
my
don't want to cut
apologies.
you off, no.
You're good, I'm done.
Yeah.
I didn't see you.
That's okay. We're talking about apples and oranges. One, we're talking about information for the general
Yes.
public. The other one, we're talking about how much we pay the attorney to draw up the contracts. So I think to satisfy both, probably, we know what the water is going to cost now because Delaware gave that to us.
Right.
Based on the information we're going to give to the people. If we move up, if we invite the attorney down and also at the same time send out notices that we're having an informational meeting on the consolidation like George mentioned, I think we're done. And we're just moving it up from April now to February. And I think we're done.
And if you're not, he'll tell you you're not.
And,
The attorney-
and the people out there will say, well, what is this going to cost?
But
And he can probably
Can I
tell.
just point out,
Yes.
on the last page, he gave me the process.
Yeah.
So he's just gonna come down and read this and we're gonna pay him. But if we do the first 4 steps, it's not gonna cost us anything with him, right? We're not paying for that. He's going to, for 4 weeks, we have to publicize this for the public, because they don't always see it once. They're gonna see it for 4 weeks. And then we have the public hearing where the public comes in and says, yes, I want consolidation, no, I don't want consolidation.
We still have to have another public hearing on consolidation?
Yes.
Because I thought we did.
No,
And
we did not,
We agreed
no.
to the consolidation.
We agreed as a board, but there's a
Yeah.
procedure in New York State that
Fine. Well, that
requires
should
them
handle it
to
all.
do it again.
So again, it's,
So what we're talking about is, we have to make a determination if we want to draw this out for another 2 weeks so that we get authorization to spend $12,000.
we may not spend
Okay,
$12,000.
but we get authorization
Yeah.
to potentially spend
It's a
$12,000.
potential.
Yeah.
no, is this something we could
Rory will
use
do
the
it for
ARPA money
1,000.
for?
We'll
We
take
can,
2 years.
we can use the ARPA money for it, yes.
I think
So
that's
if you
back
feel
up.
comfortable with
I
making that
just feel
motion.
like, I make a motion, we spend take the funds to do this work out of the ARPA funds.
The legal fees.
Legal fees to
The
join
legal
up the
fees to do
contract
this planning.
for consolidation of the water district.
Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second
All in favor?
it.
Aye.
Aye.
Is that it?
So are we going into the agreement? We're gonna start the process and
Yes.
see how it goes and we can stop
Yeah.
it.
The issue is,
If we have that,
Oh, yeah.
that satisfies it all.
I'll come in.
You're on number 4, Joe.
We're
Minutes,
gonna approve
the minutes.
The minutes.
Yep, I know. Okay, review and approve the January 26, 2023 minutes. Any comments?
Bless you. Any more comments?
Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approve the town clerk to attend the NYSTCA regional training on March 13, 2023.
What?
At a cost of $138. Big bucks. So moved. Can we pay that out of ARPA?
I love it.
All in favor?
St. Patty's
Aye.
Day for this.
Are you
Wait,
really?
I had a first, who's the second?
I was first.
I'll
Who was
second.
the
Anything for you, Mary.
I
Remember that.
so moved that.
Tuesday really good. It's St. Patty's
Second.
Day.
I'll second.
Phil was first, George was
Yeah,
second.
thank you.
George? Oh.
Yeah, I want, no, you.
Finance, discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run February 9, 2023 in the amount of $736,157.76.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, and just for information, Christine gave you, I don't know what she gave you, the review.
Check register.
Check register run.
Yeah.
That's the check register run, and then she did an audit, I think, is back here.
Yeah, that's the audit.
The audit.
Mhm.
Very good. Can I get a motion to close the town board meeting?
Oh, no, public comment.
Oh, public comments, I'm sorry. I was so anxious to go home.
No. And
Just
I
joking
wanna- I
around.
want to make a comment, so you're not coming home so soon.
You're not part of the public, are you?
Fuck the public.
goes first.
Go ahead, anybody want to?
Any public comment, concern, questions?
I'm happy you're working with the speed limit question in Heritage, and I remember green sand, I thought that was gonna do something to the water too, so, yeah.
That's what we're talking
I
about.
think
Yeah.
Mary outlined the public involvement steps, and I'm good
The
with that.
Heritage one is well on its way, because Mr. Mumford is putting that in. The Board of Health is approving it as we speak, and he's retrofitting it for the third well. That's what's taking a little bit of the delay. But that's already done. So we'd like to do the same exact thing with that in,
Other people deserve that too.
absolutely, agreed, yeah, absolutely agree.
That's the direction we're
My
going.
turn?
Your turn, Phil?
Thank you. So I just want to make a comment. We have been negotiating, and George has taken the lead on this negotiation, so I'll give him the majority of the credit. But we have been negotiating with Cablevision on a new 10-year contract. They go for 10, they wanted 15. That's an exclusive contract for Cablevision. And so one of the issues were that we wanted to collect some back money of $30-some-odd-thousand, which we did. And now we finally we've met a number of times on Zoom personally, and we are at the final stage where we're all agreeing. So now what I would like to do, I mentioned to George, is once we get the agreement, I haven't seen the final version, George just gave me a copy, he got his, is give it to Rory, just take a cursory look at it. It's pretty much follows the other one, but there are a number of revisions. And then we'll vote in.
You guys catch me up to speed on the areas where the changes were made, which we
Yeah.
talked about in the beginning
Okay.
of this.
So,
Yeah.
so I forwarded it to Mary, and Mary made me a copy.
Okay.
So she can forward a copy
Perfect.
to Rory, and then you can.
Okay.
Great, good job.
You can review it.
Good.
And I have a sheet of paper with the concerns that we had, and they were addressed.
And I did
All right,
too.
so I can go
We
off
both
that,
had them,
then.
But we don't
Yeah,
need it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all, I mean, it's all, I think, in pretty good shape. Unless you see something legally.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it was material, things like the numbers and the back pay that were on the,
Yeah.
when we did it
Right,
the
and
front
they
end.
wanted to hold a public hearing, and we
Yeah.
said that's just not gonna happen.
amount of
We
years.
do that determination. They had their attorney on for probably a half hour. I know we frustrated him.
Good,
So-
you ran the bill up, you ran the bill up.
If, that's their problem.
So,
But I just,
so then,
mention it.
once you review this, then there's a set process that we have to go through, including a public hearing.
public hearing.
So we have the final document, and then we set a public hearing for it, and people say whatever they have to say.
Sure.
But first, I would like you to look at it.
Yeah, no, please, that's
Okay.
great, good job.
Ready to close up? Mr. Bosman?
So I have a motion to close the.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna change the
All right.
title.
You got, everybody, just so you know,